Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're totally demystifying negotiation. We're going to explore this really fascinating duality between those gritty, psychological table tactics you've probably run into and the highly collaborative framework pioneered by researchers over at Harvard. So let's just jump right in. We're kicking things off with a wild, kind of paradigm-shifting story from 1964. Picture this. An American father and his 12-year-old son are tossing a frisbee in Hyde Park, London. Now, back then, almost nobody in England had ever seen a frisbee. It was completely alien. They're just casually throwing it back and forth, having a great afternoon, when this thoroughly confused onlooker walks up and asks, "Sorry to bother you, I've been watching you for 15 minutes. Who's winning?" Now, that question, it perfectly nails the core dilemma we're talking about today. In a negotiation, if you're asking who's winning, have you actually already lost? Think about it for a second. Just like a game of frisbee or, honestly, a marriage, if you view a negotiation as a battle you have to win, you've kind of completely missed the entire point of working together.
Section 1. The Myth of Winning. Unlearning the Game.
All right, let's unpack this old school mindset. To genuinely master the table, we absolutely have to unlearn this myth that a successful deal is just a basic 50-50 compromise, or some zero-sum game where if I win, you have to lose. Actually, true negotiation is about digging deep to discover underlying motivations, so you can give both sides exactly what they need. It's about finding a solution that leaves everyone happy without torching the long-term relationship. Section 2. The Tactical Toolkit. Psychology at the Table. Now, before we can play nice and collaborate, we've got to understand the playing field. We need to look at the slightly manipulative, highly psychological quirks of human nature. Let's start with anchoring. Whether you're talking salary or buying a house, the very first believable number thrown out there acts as a mental starting line. It invisibly but incredibly powerfully tugs all the counteroffers right toward it. And the craziest part? Even when you know someone is doing it to you, your brain still falls for it. That mental pressure builds even more with tactical silence. This is literally just saying absolutely nothing right after an offer lands. Human brains absolutely despise dead air, so simply pausing for 10 seconds while holding steady eye contact, it forces the other person to nervously fill that gap. And 9 times out of 10, they start backpedaling and negotiating against themselves. Then we've got the flinch. This is a visible, authentic-looking reaction of surprise or disappointment when you hear their number. You literally just raise your eyebrows, let out a tiny sigh, or lean back. No arguing needed. It plants instant doubt in their mind, making them wonder, wait, did I overshoot? People desperately want to seem fair, so they'll often walk their own offer back before you even say a single word. Oh, and mirroring. This is brilliant and takes zero effort. You just repeat the last few words the person said, but with an upward inflection, like a question. So if they say the budget is $500, you just say, lower than 500? It feels like active listening to them, but strategically, you're getting them to instinctively elaborate and reveal the hidden edges of their position, totally for free. Rounding out the toolkit is the classic door-in-the-face technique. You intentionally start with a massive, completely unreasonable request, fully expecting to get shut down. Once you get that rejection, you seamlessly pivot to your actual, smaller goal. It works because of reciprocity. If you ask to borrow a car for a whole month, they say no, but then they feel a little pang of social guilt. Suddenly, your real request for just the weekend looks like a super reasonable compromise. Section 3. The Collaborative Shift. Harvard's framework? Okay, so now that we know the micro-tactics, let's pivot. We're zooming out to the broader philosophy of collaborative negotiation from the Harvard Negotiation Project. Outlined in the famous book Getting to Yes, this 4-step framework takes egos completely out of the equation. The whole goal here is to transform the negotiation from a battle into a joint problem-solving session. Step 1 is huge. Instead of stubbornly clinging to rigid positions, which is what you demand, you've got to uncover interests, which is why you demand it. Literally just ask why. It's like 2 kids fighting over an orange. If you compromise and cut it in half, they each get 50%. But if you uncover their interests, you might find one just wants the peel for baking and the other wants the fruit to eat. Boom, you just gave them both 100% of what they wanted. Next, to handle those inevitable disagreements without bruising anyone's ego, you lean heavily on objective criteria, or fair standards. We're talking market prices, legal requirements, expert opinions. It takes the heat off of you demanding something and shifts it to what the standard rules dictate. It's exactly like that classic trick where one person cuts the cake, but the other gets to choose their piece first. The pre-agreed rule enforces fairness automatically. Section 4. Deflecting dirty tactics. Handling pressure.
So where the rubber meets the road is when you want to collaborate, but the other side is throwing those aggressive tricks at you. What do you do? First, name the game. If they're using a pressure tactic like good cop, bad cop, literally just call it out openly. Say, it seems like you guys are playing good cop, bad cop. Pulling the tactic out of the shadows and into the light instantly diffuses its power, and you don't even have to make it a personal attack. But what if they do attack you personally? That's when you use negotiation jujitsu. Instead of blindly defending yourself, you step aside. You invite their criticism and ask for advice. If they attack your proposal, redirect that energy by asking, well, if you were in my shoes, what would you do? It is incredibly disarming, and it forces them to mentally step onto your side of the table.
Another absolute must-do defense: trading, not giving. Never, ever hand over a concession for free. Let's say they try the nibble, asking for some tiny freebie right before the ink dries, like, hey, can you throw in free delivery? You have to establish reciprocity immediately. You respond firmly, I can do that if you commit to signing today. Every single exchange has to be mutual. Otherwise, you're just bleeding your leverage dry.
Section 5. Your ultimate safety net. Navigating power.
All right, let's tackle the elephant in the room: power dynamics. What do you do when the person sitting across from you is just way more powerful than you? Well, you need a BOTNA. That stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. Basically, it's your absolute best backup plan if this deal completely crashes and burns. And knowing exactly what that alternative is, it changes the entire dynamic of the room.
See, having a strong alternative means you negotiate from true power. You can walk away without fear because, frankly, you don't need the deal. Contrast that with a weak BATNA. A weak backup plan radiates visible desperation. The other side can literally sense the panic in your tone, they see it in your quick concessions, and eventually it leads to you caving under pressure.
But here's the harsh reality. You can't bluff a strong alternative. You have to actively go out and build it before you ever sit down. Apply for multiple jobs, get multiple quotes, line up alternative buyers, do whatever it takes so that no single deal holds all your leverage. You build your power before you ever speak a single word.
Section 6. Finding mutual gain. Solving the problem.
Let's bring all of this together. When you understand the raw psychological mechanics of human behavior, those table tactics, and you pair them with a principled collaborative framework, you become virtually unstoppable at any table. So the next time you step into a negotiation, whether it's a multi-million-dollar merger or just arguing a weekend curfew with your teenager, I want you to remember that Frisbee story. Ask yourself one final question. Are you wasting your energy trying to win a game, or are you actually ready to solve the problem? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Go build your BATNA today, and I'll catch you next time.